Hey, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to talk about something that's kind of running in the background of, well, of everything. It's the invisible script that shapes how we argue, what we believe in, and how we build our world. A lot of the time, without us even noticing.
You know the feeling. You turn on the news, you scroll through your feed, and it's just a wall of noise, right? Shouting, debates, arguments that seem to come out of nowhere. It feels like total chaos. But what if I told you there's a logic behind the madness? A hidden structure to it all? What if everyone is secretly using a map to navigate it all?
And look, this isn't just some dusty academic topic. I love this quote from the political thinker Andrew Vincent because it gets to the heart of it. We're all fellow travelers. None of us are neutral observers standing on the sidelines here. Whether you call it an ideology or just what you believe, we all use these frameworks to make sense of everything. Understanding them is really about understanding ourselves and everyone else we share this wild planet with.
So yeah, let's really lean into this metaphor of an ideological map. It's powerful. Think about it. Society is this huge, messy, unbelievably complex landscape. An ideology is the map we use to try and make sense of it all. It shows us where we are, it points to where we could go, and it suggests a route to get there.
Okay, so what is an ideology technically? Well, here's the formal definition. And there are two parts here that are absolutely crucial. First, a coherent set of ideas. This is a big deal. It means it's not just a random grab bag of opinions. The beliefs are supposed to link together to have a logic. But the second part is the real kicker. Organized political action. Ideologies are not just for thinking. They are blueprints for doing. They are designed to change the world.
So pretty much every one of these maps, no matter which one you pick up, does three basic things. First, it offers a worldview. Think of it as the "You Are Here" sticker on a mall map. It gives you a diagnosis of the world as it is right now. Second, it presents a vision, a destination. This is its picture of a better society. And finally, it lays out a path. This is the prescription, the turn-by-turn directions for how to get from here to there.
All right, so to really see how these maps work in the wild, let's put a few of them side by side. We're going to see how they answer the exact same questions, and we'll start with maybe the most fundamental question of all. What are we as human beings?
I mean, just look at this. The starting points are night and day. Liberalism generally says, hey, we're self-interested, but we're also rational. We can learn and grow. But then conservatism comes in and says, whoa, hold on. We're imperfect, we're psychologically limited, we need security and tradition to keep us from messing things up. And then socialism says, you're both missing the point. We are fundamentally social creatures, hardwired to cooperate and shaped by our environment. You see, everything else an ideology proposes flows directly from this one core belief about who we are. And from that starting point, their view of society just logically clicks into place. It makes perfect sense. If you're a liberal who believes in the rational individual, then of course you see society as just a collection of us who've made a deal to get along. If you're a conservative who thinks we're fragile, then of course you see society as a kind of living organism that needs to be protected by tradition and authority. And for socialists, if we're fundamentally social, well, you can't even talk about an individual without talking about the society that shaped them. It all connects.
Okay, so far we've been talking about these maps as if they're just helpful, neutral guides. But there's a much darker, more critical way to look at all this. What if the map you're using wasn't drawn to help you find your way? What if it was drawn to keep you lost?
This is where Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels come crashing into the conversation. Their argument was explosive. They said ideology isn't a neutral tool, it's a weapon. Basically, whoever controls the money and the means of production, the ruling class, doesn't just control our jobs, they control our heads. The ideas that feel normal or common sense in any given era are, in their view, the ideas of the people in charge, designed to keep them in charge.
And this leads to this really powerful, kind of unsettling concept, false consciousness. It's the idea that ideology can trick us into accepting and even defending a system that works against our own interests. Marx used this brilliant metaphor of a camera obscura, an old device that projects an image of the outside world but flips it upside down. He said ideology does exactly that. It takes reality, where a system might be exploitative, and flips it on its head to make it seem natural, just, and even beneficial for everyone.
So this idea that ideology is really all about power
it didn't stop with Marx. More recent thinkers have dug even deeper, arguing that the ultimate form of power isn't controlling an army or a bank, it's controlling reality itself.
You have to know about this concept of hegemony from the Italian thinker Antonio Gramsci. He argued that the most effective way to rule isn't through force, but by manufacturing consent. Hegemony is what happens when the worldview of the dominant group becomes so completely embedded in everything, our schools, media, art, culture, that we stop seeing it as just one possible view. It becomes common sense. It's that feeling of, well, that's just the way things are.
And the philosopher Michel Foucault pushed this even further, coining the incredible phrase regimes of truth. His point was that so much of politics is really a battle over whose story, whose map of the world gets to be seen as the truth. The winning ideology sets the rules of the game. It defines the very language we use to think, determining what's considered sane or radical, possible or impossible. It can lock in the status quo, or it can give people the tools to tear it down.
So let's bring all this home. How does knowing this stuff help us understand the world we're living in right now? Because, let me tell you, the ideological maps are definitely changing.
One of the biggest shifts we've seen is what the arguments are about. The classical ideologies, liberalism, conservatism, socialism, were mainly fighting over economics. Capitalism versus socialism, how big the state should be, all that. But a lot of the new ideological battles that define our time, things like feminism, green politics, multiculturalism, are centered on culture, identity, and lifestyle. The big, passionate debates are increasingly about who we are, not just what we own.
So as we wrap up, I want to be really clear about something. The whole point of this explainer isn't to crown one ideology as the winner, as the one right way to see the world.
No, the whole point is to understand that you are using a map. We all are. And just knowing that awareness, is a kind of superpower. It lets you step back and look at your own map critically. It helps you understand why someone else's map looks so radically different from yours. It's the first most important step to actually thinking for yourself.
And that brings us to the final question, the one I want to leave you with. Think about your own beliefs, your own gut feelings about human nature, about society, about the right way forward. What are the landmarks and the legends that guide you? So, what's on your map? Thanks for joining us.